Hey everyone, uh, welcome back. Welcome me back to the shop. Version 1.8327 stardate 944 turbo. Um, I apologize for not going live during Daytona. It was my first time there, and there is a ton going on. I got my steps in. That is for damn sure. Um, Daytona is a huge place. There's so much to see. And by the time you figure out kind of where everything's at, it's Sunday morning and you're trying to watch the finish of the race and make sure, you're herding cats and all this stuff. So it was very cool. Very, very cool weekend. Very, man, if you want racing stuff, that's where to go. I think Daytona and IMSA in general is basically the kind of the halfway point between, hey Liz, between full blast racing, like a complete and total race car, and what you can put on the street, and take to the track yourself. So it's nice to see that stuff, and I know they do tons of parts testing, and they'll take ideas from that and incorporate it into production cars or limited edition, bodies in white, stuff like that. So it's really cool to see some of the technology and the advancements in racing before they actually get into general public's hands, which is I think it's pretty damn cool. Um, I got to talk with a very nice lady at who was part of the Multimatic, the Mustang team that won in GTD, and very very nice. Her and her husband are French. They'd come over here and they worked for Multimatic, and they were super excited about the race. This is before the race even started. I took the Viper up there, and she was a huge Viper fan, and we talked for a little while. And she and her husband were very very excited about you know racing this car at Daytona. They had a ton of really cool stuff on it. And the one thing I asked her about was the graphic on the side of the Mustang and how they do that LED pony. I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, but you should definitely check out the GT3 Mustang. It actually, if I show it on the Miata here, I'm sitting on the floor. So the Mustang is actually part of the head of the horse is in the door and fender, and it's lit up. It's an outline of the head and of the horse, the front part of the Mustang logo, and it takes up about three quarters of the door height wise, and about three quarters of the fender height wise. And it's very, very cool. And it's very, very slick how they do that. It's also very, very expensive. It is part of the wrap. There is only one wire for it, and that sends a specific voltage, obviously. And then at the other end, there's a ground, and that's how it powers up. And they only run it at night. It doesn't take a lot of voltage, so it's not interfering with any other electronic systems or anything. It's very, very cool how they do it, but it is very, very expensive. But that's one of the things that you can look for, in upcoming, you know, uh, I guess aftermarket accessories. They're going to start doing stuff like that, where you can do a logo, or you can do your name, or you know, tits and ass. That's always popular. You can always do that stuff. Um, they they'll come up with something to do that much more cost effective than they currently do, and it's always fun to see, even stuff like that, even just the aesthetic stuff. The downside was, and I heard about this yesterday, I think. Yeah, I heard about it yesterday. Was normally at Daytona, when a car breaks or crashes or whatever, the broken parts or whatever are usually given to spectators. You have full access to the whole paddock. So the only place you can't go is in the pits or into private areas, up into the private, Lamborghini booths and stuff like that. But you have complete access to the entire, basically the whole facility except the hot pits or on the track. So when you're walking through there, you can, I mean, you can get up close to the cars, like almost as close, I would say, as close as I am to the Viper right now. You can get within 5 feet of the cars, which is great. Talk to the drivers. You can, talk to the engineers. One thing that was really cool was to see a bunch of female engineers, and these are women that are kicking ass, and they're overlooking engines and suspensions and brakes and stuff like that. And that was really cool to see. I saw, I don't know, maybe I'll say 15%, maybe 20% of the teams had a female engineer doing, some of the technical stuff on the car. That was just really cool to see. Iron Dames doesn't count. They totally blow the whole curve. Iron Dame's awesome, all female team. They're super badass drivers too. So anyway, you can get very very close to the cars, and you can talk to the racers, the engineers. The If you want to, there's Roger Penske. He's cruising around in a golf cart. Hey Roger, yeah, you can get a picture with him and all that. Yeah, I mean it's very personable. So when the cars crash or involved in an incident, or they replace a panel or stuff, usually people can ask, "Hey, are you guys going to throw that away?" People like the mementos. They like the broken fender off the Cadillac, or the diffuser that fell off the back of the Porsche, or whatever. And most of the time, unless it's a super top secret part or something that's worth kabillions of dollars, they'll be like, "Yeah, here." Unfortunately, one of the teams, AO Racing, who has two very cool cars. They have a Porsche called Rexy, and then they have an Orica car that's called Spike, based on dinosaurs. That's their whole thing. Rexy is very popular, especially with the kids. Very distinctive look, bright green, this big jaw open in the front. It's cool. They have a very cool team, really good drivers too. And someone had on Sunday, just literally just after the race, someone had come by and taken parts from their paddock area. And they might have looked broken or used or whatever, but they did not ask for permission for those parts. And AO Racing asked people online, on a bunch of social media platforms, if you do have those parts, please return them because they're not broken. So, yeah, I would expect, number one, I would expect fans to have a little more decorum and a little more class next year. But I would also, in relation to this, expect more security and more eyes watching stuff, which kind of sucks. Hopefully, that doesn't mean more barriers, more ropes, and more hoops you got to jump through in order to get a paddock pass or whatever. It only takes one person to ruin it for everyone, right? So other than that, had an absolutely fantastic time. Went with my friend Berg and my friends Katie and Taryn. They came down with the kids. They drove all the way down from Ohio. We got a great Airbnb that was like 10 minutes from the track, so it was easy to go back and forth and shower, change clothes, and get food, and then go back to the track. It was very very convenient, and just a ton of fun. And we did the smart thing. We also booked it for Sunday night so that we could leave on Monday instead of having to bail on Sunday straight from the track, because the race ends at 1:40. So you would have been checked out. You wouldn't have been able to go back and all this other stuff. So it's okay. Um, Nice Airbnb in, where were we? Port Orange. So it's just barely south of Daytona International Speedway and the airport. Uh, Very cool. It was awesome to, I did a Facebook Live at the start. I got lucky with that, with timing. And then I got some videos from the finish. And then on social media, if you guys want, Facebook and Instagram, I put up a ton of pictures of a bunch of the cool cars that I saw. Manufacturers have tons of display stuff and a lot of promo stuff. They brought out a bunch of the old cars and a whole bunch of the new cars. There were vintage racers there. The Interscope 935, the Whelen Corvette GTP car. Um, there was a ton of cars there, and the vintage stuff is always really cool to see. The old GTP Mustang, that was super cool to see, because I remember Jackie Stewart drove that in a demo video. It's on here on YouTube if you guys want to go watch it. Jackie Stewart teaches you how to drive, which is That's pretty cool. It's a very fun video, sponsored by Ford, and he drives all these different cars in different ways. It's great. Um, so Daytona was a huge hit. And I apologize for not going live, but all the stuff you're doing, you're trying to hook up with your friends. I got to hook up. I saw Nick and Jacob and Adam, and that was really great. They were all in their Bucky's onesies. Um, got a complete and total accident. Had no clue. My friend Keith Norton, who I've known for a very long time, he found out his buddy had a spare ticket. Keith was like, "Okay," and he just flew down that day and came to the race. And I'm walking back towards the paddock area, and there's Keith walking the other way, and he's like, "Hey, Kevin." I was like, "Holy shit, someone knows me." Um, that was pretty cool. I haven't seen Keith in a while, so that was really nice. So yeah, I apologize for not bringing really cool stuff to you guys from Daytona. I'm definitely going next year. It's a lot of fun. Where Haggerty, their whole parking area and their area is in a fantastic spot. Uh, they all loved the Viper. They were thankful that I brought the Viper up. So uh, hopefully we'll do that again next year. I really like that. Um, yeah. So that was Daytona. A lot of fun. A lot of very cool stuff. And I wish I just had a body cam on and I would just turn it on and you guys could go with me. Maybe I do that next year. Just do like a body cam and you know, check the phone for, messages from you guys. Hey, go over to, go over to Rexy or go over to wherever. Yeah, I'll do something like that. Come back here to the shop and actually here to the house. And I'm doing house stuff the last couple of days. And now I'm back in the shop yesterday and today and trying to get this steering rack going in the Miata. Again, still waiting on parts. They're very difficult to find. So I don't really have any good excuses, but that's the only one I've got. Um, so I've been working on replacing the steering rack lines, the hard lines and the soft lines in the steering rack. So we had a major leak, obviously. And I got a bunch of the flare nuts. These are compression fittings that the Ohio roads have corroded incredibly, terribly badly. And over the course, the car's, let's see, 96. So it's almost 30 years old. And there's been a ton of corrosion locking those things in. You get a chemical, it's almost a chemical well. And it makes it very difficult to get these things apart. A few of them I did get apart. And I'm going to show you tonight on one of them what's involved in getting it apart and how bad it can be. And then I've saved this last one because it's a huge bitch to show you guys how to do stuff that's incredibly crusty and gross, but you need to save the main part. You're not too worried about saving the old part because it's broken or damaged or whatever, but you need to save the main part that it's going into. So we'll be a little bit careful, but a little bit violent, and we'll see if we can get this out. So again, I apologize for the camera angle. This is going to be the laptop on the rolly stool. So I probably won't be in a bunch of this, but my hands will be with my fingernails that are too long. So hopefully you guys follow along. I'll try and check the messages to see if you guys have any messages or questions or anything like that. But I'm going to grab a light and I'm going to bring you guys down here. Oh, as I just dumped, I literally just put my hand behind my back and I just poured out half a can of Rockstar. You ready? Oh, God. How did I manage to do that? Look at that. It looks like I peed. Come on. Come on. All right. So I'm going to clean up my Rockstar first. See, Rockstar, this is why I need an endorsement because dumb shit like this happens to me all the time. All right. Let me get my can out of the way. Sorry, my Rockstar can. Whoops. That is my non-obnoxious alarm. I never realized how obnoxious my alarm was until someone else pointed it out to me. And they're like, I'm sure that wakes you up, but it sounds like a German air raid siren. And it is not the most pleasant thing to hear. And I agreed. So I have 300 alarms on my phone. So I'm slowly going through and changing all of them. When we power wash the garage floor, we'll get the rest of that sugar and Rockstar off of there. Ugh. All we do is clean the shop, right? Okay. Let me grab a light and see if we can shed some light on the situation. Now bring you guys over here and down a little bit. And there's our steering rack. So the only thing, and I've got a bunch of tools out ready to go. So the only thing I've done on the rack here, if I come down here really low, is I've loosened up these hydraulic lines. These are just flare fittings. These are compression. They're standard flare fitting. I don't know. I'm guessing they're metric double flares. I haven't looked inside, but these you just do with a standard flare wrench. This is what a flare wrench looks like. Okay. Has 1, 2, 3, 4 and a quarter sides on it. And the right size wrench is the 12 for this. And it provides a little better grip, and it grabs a lot better than a standard combination wrench, which usually most of the time only grabs on 2 sides. Although it's shaped to grab on 4. These work considerably better for flare fittings. That's just how they grab it. These guys came off fairly easily. That one, yeah. And I've kept them kind of tight. Now, this guy over here, you can see he's had some work done on him. He is a 17, I believe. So what happens is these flare wrenches, even though they're very strong, this is chrome vanadium steel, these flare wrenches can flex open. As you're putting pressure, as you're trying to use it, they can flex open and then slip, and then they strip off the nut. And that's what happened over here. And you can see hopefully you can see the marks. Let me get my pointer. Hang on. Instead of using my fingers, we can use my. Here we go. Cool pointer. So this flare fitting here, I don't need them that long. This one actually started to strip using the flare wrench. So then I'm replacing this hose anyway, so I don't really care if this fitting gets screwed up. I have a brand new hose with a brand new fitting. Sometimes we can use vice grips, and we can get on there and hopefully get it on a flat spot and hold it. Vice grips. And then we do the method of going a little bit loose, a little bit tight, a little bit loose, working it back and forth in order to get it to go all the way loose. Hopefully you've already put, like I showed in the other videos, we did deep creep in these, and it works really well. This one, fortunately, with a hammer and a bunch of tappy taps, this one did come loose. So, which way does he go? There we go. So he did eventually come loose. It was about 20 minutes after, and this 17 still sort of works on here, but I had to use the vice grips. I didn't really want to, but I had to. So have our flare wrenches out. The other option, now this guy is completely stuck. This is obviously our leaking tube. This one is going to be the biggest pain in the ass. That's how he's built. And you can see the corrosion on here, the corrosion on the cap, the corrosion on these flare nuts. Even after cleaning everything up, this has all been, I did a bunch of brake clean on here and cleaned up a whole bunch of this stuff. This is all going to get repainted. So this is all going to get truck bed liner, and this is going to get cleared, and we have new hoses. So we'll clean up the fittings on these old hydraulic lines. I don't need to replace these hydraulic lines, the 2 push lines. And you can see where it pushes from. Pushes this way and pushes this way. And this is where the lines come in. And as you turn the wheel, you turn the steering wheel, this hooks up to the column, it pushes from this or it pushes from this. And that's what gives you your power steering. It pushes the cylinder in here one way or the other. You also have the mechanical part of it. So that's why it's called power assisted steering. So it's just helping you steer. Again, I could put this in the Miata right now, take out all these lines, plug them up, put it in the Miata, it would still steer because I have this mechanical portion. So if I didn't have that, I could just run a straight column right through here. Or if I didn't have the hydraulic, I could just run a straight section right through here and, take this out, cap this off, and it's just mechanical steering. But power steering is nice, especially if you're running a wider tire and running slower speeds. A power assisted steering is a good thing. So we're going to try and take this flare off. Now I have tried the regular flare wrench, and he has slipped, and he has started to strip off. I mean, I can't even. If he comes off right now, I'm going to be really pissed. Because I wanted to show you guys all the other methods. Nope. He just slips right past. So the nut is just slipping inside there. So we're done with the flare wrenches for now. The next part was the vice grips, and I tried these, and they did not. All they did was round it off even further. So you get these on super, super tight, and you actually have gloves on. Get these as super tight as possible on the widest section possible. Usually you would use a shorter nose. You wouldn't use a needle nose like this, but I don't have any like that here. Of course, in Ohio, I have 8 different vice grips. So you would grab onto this, hammer back and forth, and hopefully it comes loose. It did not. So next up, it just stripped it out further. So we're done with that. Next up is heat. And heat is really good, especially when you have dissimilar metals. So we have cast aluminum here, and this is usually a form of brass. It's kind of zinc. It's a zinc. It's an alloy. Anyway, I don't know what they make these out of, but it's going to have brass in it, and it's going to have something else, some sort of zinc in it. I don't know for sure, but I know this is cast aluminum. So since we have dissimilar metals, different kinds of metals, this is going to heat up at a different rate than this. This will expand quicker and hopefully release some of that corrosion that's inside of there. Now, even after we heat it up, we need a different method to turn this because he's almost completely rounded now. We will try the flare wrench just for grins, and we can try the vice grips just for grins, but we have a minimum of one other method left, possibly 2 other methods. So we're trying to save this part because it's fine. We need to get this out because we need to replace, this is the tube. The only tube we need to replace is the biggest pain in the ass. So I'm going to make a little bit of noise because we're going to use the heat gun and we're going to heat it up. Now you can also use MAP gas. You can use like a cigar torch if you really want pinpoint precision. But I'm gonna heat this up as best I can with this, and we'll see how it goes. Heat guns work pretty good, and they're usually pretty safe. Usually. If the lights go out, you guys know what happened. What I am going to do is put on gloves because I know this will not be room temperature anymore. Mm. Rockstar still tastes good after being spilled. Okay. We have two settings on the heat gun. It's got a digital display. I'm just going to put it on super hot and screw this. It's 700 degrees. I think it goes up to 1100. Doesn't say. So what I'm doing is I'm heating up the casting of the aluminum because I know that's going to expand quicker than this. Now, if I get them both to expand, that's okay. It's still going to break some of that corrosion free, but I really want that aluminum to expand more than the fitting. I don't need it red hot. I don't need it melting. I need it to expand. And I can do it on both sides too. A torch works a little bit quicker. It's definitely putting out more heat than a heat gun, but this is what we've got right now. You're not going to hear anything or see anything. It is all going to be by feel. But yeah, this was a brass brush and 2 cans of brake cleaner, and it came back this clean, the aluminum casting, so it didn't do too bad. That's why we're just going to clear coat it. It'll last, and once it's cleared, it'll last another 20 years, no problem. So yeah, this is the fun part about working on old, really corroded stuff. And you're also working on it in a very tight, there's 2 hydraulic lines above it. You have the main body right below it. You have a lot of stuff in the way. So it makes it a little more difficult. And we're doing this on the floor instead of on a bench in a vise. I just put this whole thing in a vise and soft jaws and call it good. Come back up to the top here. And I can smell the brake clean, the leftover brake clean burning off. So yeah, it's a little hard to tell. There's no exposed elements here. It's going at 700 degrees right now. And it's probably cooking the leftover power steering fluid in here. You guys can't see it, but this old hose leaked a little bit out. So yeah, let's see how this does. You can also use heat to help deep creep get in there, but we had deep creep sitting in there for 4 days, so it's worked its way in. And the other problem with these fittings, with flare fittings, they spin on the tubing. So not only do you have corrosion holding it together at the main body, but the corrosion also holds it up at the tubing. So it's being held on 2 different sides. And that's a great way to break hard lines or anything like that. But they're really good fittings. This is what your brake lines are made out of too. This is very high pressure. So you need solid lines. You can't use rubber tubing for that. You could once, But that's why they're hard lines instead of soft rubber lines. This is a secondary return. Primary return. So it has a soft line from here up to the reservoir. All right. I think this thing is nice and warm. We're going to set this thing down. It has little legs that come out on the side like that. So we can let him cool off. You can set him like this, and then you can also do heat shrink like this and all that. So we're just going to set him off to the side, let him cool off. We will try our flare wrench, and also make sure you're going the right way. Can't tell you how many times I've been like, oh yeah, we'll get it loose this way, and you're tightening it. So nope, he's just sliding on there. Don't worry. Yeah, he's just going around in circles. So we have tried our flare wrench. We'll try. Now, the downside with this is, since he's needle nose, his ends stick out really far, so I can't really go very far on this side, or he'll bump into the other hydraulic lines when I turn him. And I don't want to damage those. I already got to replace one. I don't want to have to replace another. So make sure we're on this as best as we can be. You know what? I just noticed this. There's actually a quarter drive in here. I didn't know this before. That is a cool trick. So you tightened it as hard as you can with your hands. Now you can come back with a wrench, give it the little extra that you wanted with your hands. That's cool. So that is actually very cool. I did not know that. Also, I'm just going to try this for grins. It also makes it a lot easier to release it. That is cool. Okay. So it doesn't spring back and fly out and bonk someone in the head. So let's see how far we can go here. Let's say about yay far. That's cool. I didn't know that was there before. I've not noticed it on other wrenches, so it's cool to see it on this one. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, I'm going the wrong way here. So we need to go loose. So we need to go this way. And still need to clear those other lines. We don't want to bonk into them. Right? And go a little bit deeper here. I think we'll be okay. That's really cool. I like that. Learn something new every day, right? I don't want to break him. I just want him to hold on there pretty tight. So now, oh, you can see him flexed. The lower section is really turned out. So I'm going to try and do this where you guys can see it. But I need to get leverage. So I need to come over here, which is going to block the light. So I apologize. And Now he's touching the other pipe. So I'm trying to see if he's moving. I think he is, actually. Possibly. Okay. Come back over on this side. Turn this off. With heat guns, it's always a good idea to let them cool down. Let's get that in there. Get this guy loose. And then just for grins, we'll try the 17 again. Hey, I think we might have gotten him here. Yep. All right. That is a good sign. So what we're doing is we're going back and forth here. So we now have them loose. We did not have to resort to pure violence, which is cutting a notch with a Dremel. On the surface, you'll cut a notch here, and then you will come back with a hammer and punch, and you will hammer it in the direction that it needs to go to come unthreaded. And you can do that from this side, and then you can flip over and do it from the other side. But you just use a Dremel with a cutting wheel. You put a notch in there. That notch. Then you use this guy. And you go at a very steep angle. And he'll help not only shock it, but you're also turning it in the direction that it needs to go. Now, if these don't work and you just carve this away, then you take the Dremel and you have to cut away as much of this as possible. By the time you've cut all of this out, all that you can, you'll have to come in. It'll eventually give way. You can then take it out with pliers. It'll collapse in on itself. It won't have any support on the inside. It'll collapse in on itself, and you'll be able to take it out with just regular pliers, or sometimes even just by hand. But this guy's come loose, which is a good thing. So we'll pull back on this a little bit. See if we can't get a bigger turn out of him. And the problem is this pipe inside is actually corroded, closed. So the pipe itself, this tube is trying to turn with the nut because he's corroded into the flare nut part. So getting him to move, and he is slowly moving. There we go. Once you get it loose, and I'll take this guy all the way out for you guys to see. So 30 years of corrosion. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can use the flare wrench just for grins. Yeah, he's going to work. Okay. Now the flare wrench gets caught because he's got a chisel mark on there and the vice grips, all the rounded sections from before. So where does he grab on? Where doesn't he grab on? So here we go. Oh, yeah. So it's not only corrosion, it's also heat. There's a lot of heat where this is. Um, it's right up by the front of the engine. Get it in a hot, cold heat cycle. And that will also lock stuff up, especially with dissimilar metals. Heat and metals, sometimes they work together, sometimes they do not. So, whoops. There we go. You got this guy apart without having to get super violent. There we go. And of course, he's going to leak a little fluid right there, and that's fine. But this is our part. Oh, yeah, of course. And he just drips everything out of there. How's that? Perfect, right? Well, that's okay. So that is our flare, and it's a very large flare. This is our tubing, and you can see when I get this on here that the flare turns around the tubing. And this is very difficult to do, which means there's a ton of corrosion and crap in there. He should actually just spin very freely. And this is what's called a metric bubble flare. Sometimes it's called a double flare. So it's a very simple. If I needed to go make one of these, I probably could, except I don't have my flaring tool here. The little bump, I forgot what it's called. I don't have that tool here. It's actually in Ohio. I got myself one of those for Christmas a couple years ago. So that's it. The hardest one is now out, and we need to get a replacement for this because he is leaking. You can see, I mean, you guys can see where all the corrosion and stuff is on this thing. I don't know. Maybe you can't. Let's see. Of course, there's no light over here. All the corrosion on this side, all the way down. So he's leaking from somewhere in here, down at the base. So this is the guy that's getting replaced. The other lines, well, and this line is also getting replaced. So I'll set this over here so stuff stops dripping. We'll get our other line off of here, maybe. Okay, there you go. And we're going to use some parts off of this line on our new line because it didn't come with it. But we're going to do some cleanup and painting first. Obviously, we need to paint this stuff, and we'll get it all masked off and get new protection on there. So it won't look exactly brand new, but it'll look really good. And it'll last. It won't go any further. How's that? So here's this is our main, this is our high pressure hose. And this is one of the ones we're replacing. So I'll show you guys how flare fitting. This is normally a flare fitting. And you can see the flare on the end there, how that's shaped. So he came down. Okay. So when he's up at the top like that, you can see he spins freely around there. When he clamps down, he provides a metal on metal surface. It's a very, very good seal, and it's very good for high pressure. So the parts we're going to replace, or we're going to take off of this, we're going to take the foam padding because it's still in good shape. we need these brackets, but these are going to get cleaned up and they're going to get primered. They unhook. You just take a pair of pliers and you just unhook those little tabs right there, and then they come apart. The rubber inside of them is actually in really good shape. So you can see the tabs on this guy too. These are going to get cleaned up and primered and truck bed linered, and they're going to go on our new high pressure line. We have a brand new high pressure line. I'll show you that. That one we do have. That one's easy to get. That one has not changed between model years. Oh, and this is a way better example of the flare fitting too, because it's brand new. So this is what the flare fitting, that's a flare right there. And yeah, metric double. So this is how they should be. They should just spin freely like this. And this is our tubing. And it came with this crappy split loom, which I'm not a big fan of, but I'm going to use the foam instead. And then we have our 2 clamps that go on the main part of the fitting. And this is a female fitting, same kind of thing. It has a, whoa, where'd you go? Has a flare inside there, clamps down. This one goes on top of the power steering pump. And this one comes down to the rack. So this is our brand new line. And he better not leak. He better not. He's also different. This is the problem with aftermarket parts. He is a different size. The caps are a different size. So just when you do stuff like that, double check. You're probably not going to use the same wrenches. And you can also tell with this end, you can see how the gripping area for the wrench is actually smaller on the new one. So that's how they cheap out on stuff. The OEM one has a much wider gripping area for the wrench. This one has a much thinner, not quite as thick. So that's the difference when you're looking at the difference between OEM and aftermarket. That's the difference. So get this guy replaced. We're going to take the other fittings here, the ones that we're keeping, and they're going to get wire brushed, and then they're going to get closed back up, and they'll be painted over to help seal them in. Truck bed liner is pretty easy to remove, so it's not going to hinder any kind of removal, but it's going to protect this stuff when it's, you know, exposed to the elements. So these lines will come off. They'll all get cleaned up, and they will get truck bed linered too. And just to protect them, the hard lines are super susceptible to corrosion. Just ask Subaru. Subaru had to replace fuel lines. Fuel lines use the same material for fuel lines. Subaru had to replace millions of them. You know, any kind of salt or anything in there, it absolutely kills it. So that's it. That's where we go. We'll run truck bed liner on the tie rods too, and I'll probably do standard black enamel up here. I need to keep my mark though, so I'll etch my mark in here, and that way I can still see it when it's painted. I'll take like a punch or whatever and just punch my mark. That way I can still see it. And get this painted. This U-joint is sealed, so I don't need to worry about that. And we'll double check torque on all these guys when we put it back together. He'll get truck bed liner. This guy will get cleared. We'll do truck bed liner on this after we clean him up. He'll get brushed off and sanded down. And then if I can get in here, yeah, we'll get some enamel in there too to help keep that stuff clean. This is just a big dust shield to help the seal that's in there. So very close to getting this thing done, getting it back into the Miata. Now that we have everything apart, we're really waiting on this line and then the soft line that comes out of it and goes up to the reservoir. So that's really all we're waiting on. So I'm gonna spin you guys back here. Whoops, going the wrong way. And I'll put these out of the way. This guy is safe. I really need an oil catch tray. That is probably the next shop purchase because I'm going to be doing a lot of oil changes here. So get this stuff out of the way. I'm glad that thing's out of there. I thought for sure we were going to have to carve it out. It looked really bad. And if you're stripping out flare wrenches, that's rarely is that a good sign. So this is just ATF. Power steering fluid is basically ATF. It's not very caustic, but it can be very slippery and it can make a big mess. So clean up what we can because we don't want to slip on stuff, right? All right. So that is about it for tonight. Like I said, we're waiting on parts. When we get more parts, we can start putting more stuff back together. In the meantime, we can put tools away, which is always good. Heat gun unplugged. We don't need any fires. Oh, and I'll move you guys. Hang on, give me a second here. Let me put the heat gun away. No, heat gun goes here. New toolbox. I got to remember where everything goes. So let me grab you guys. I will. Oh, yeah, at a funky angle. How's that? Does that work okay? Sorry. Are we all tilted? Sorry. Let me try to get this straight. My apologies. I didn't design the wing. Yeah, okay. What do we got? Yeah, those different methods are that's stuff I've used for many years in Colorado, in New York, in Ohio. Just there's Ohio by far the worst out of all of that. So yeah. Yeah, I need those parts from Darren. I have not spoken to him recently since I got back. So I definitely need to talk to him. And I'm going to leave those gloves there. Got some other wrenches that we were using for other things, pins and stuff. So get all of this stuff put away. He goes like that and up there, and he goes up there. You have a smaller toolbox. You gotta put more tools in smaller places. Done with this, done with this. We're gonna leave our socket out because we know that's for the wheels. You can actually put it right there so we don't kick it around. Get all this stuff away. And whoops, it's just our steering rack. Big stuff first. BFH. You guys don't know what a BFH is, I cannot help you because I cannot say that on YouTube. Oh, our other driver goes here. This goes with punches. All right. There. And torch and flare over here. Big, medium, small. Cool. Got all of our tools put away, kind of cleaned up. And I'm just going to leave the light here because I'm going to be doing more stuff with it. So that's it for the steering rack. Hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully it helps you out in the future when you have those really gnarly. I mean, where'd you go? I just had it. You have these really gnarly, super crusty fittings. I mean, I can't even, and he's also really sharp, but I can barely turn this. So when you get fittings like these in stuff that's, super corroded like this, hopefully that helps. And like I said, if you need to, you cut a notch here and then you hammer it in the direction that you need to go. Just use a chisel. The smacking of the chisel and the force in the direction usually helps. Again, you can do the back and forth method. So you can go loose, go just a touch tight, then go a bunch loose, go a touch tight. That usually works. That's usually, we only went through 3 of the 4 steps. So, or of the 5, the 5 levels of old crusty nuts. Yeah, so we didn't have to go that far, which is great. It saves a lot of time. When you have to cut this stuff out, you have to be very careful because you don't want to cut your original piece. You sometimes you want to save this tubing because you can't get another one of these, and you'll have to reflare the end after you get this out and you cut it off. You put a new flare fitting on there, then you'll have to reflare it. So there's usually not usually, but sometimes there's a much bigger mess and more work involved in saving this stuff, even though you're just trying to get it the hell out of there. So yeah, I think that's about it for tonight. Just wanted to show you guys how to get those off without tearing up a whole bunch of stuff, and trying to keep your car looking as nice as possible without dumping a whole ton of money into it. If you want to, you can redo all those lines, but the other hard lines are actually fine. They're on the back side of the steering rack, so they're not exposed. They're not as exposed as that one is. That's straight up, and it's one of the first ones that salt and dirt and everything see. So that's why he gets corroded. Plus, he's a much larger fitting, so he catches more. That's why he's corroded so badly. So that's it. I hope you guys like that. We'll come back when we get more Miata stuff. We've also got another killer Cars and Coffee in Northport on Sunday morning, and with any good fortune, excuse me, I just went down the wrong pipe there. We have guests here on Sunday after Cars and Coffee. I will try and bring them over, and we can maybe possibly check out a couple of cool cars. Maybe possibly. I'll talk with them about it. We'll see. We'll see if they can bring cars over or if they just want to bolt after lunch. Never know. It's a Sunday, so we'll see what happens. But we'll also be doing tomorrow, be prepping the Viper for this weekend. So I have to clean the wheels. You guys, this is just gross. Whoops, the gloves fell. I was using the gloves to balance. Look at that. Oh, they're disgusting. And that's just driving to Daytona and back. That's not we were not tracking it. We were not doing Tail of the Dragon or anything like that. That was just that was just going to Daytona and back. They get absolutely filthy. So I'm going to do one for my friend Todd and for Jack's Wax. I'll show you guys how to do just a super quick power washing of the wheels, no touch. I think I've done it before. I don't know. I'll show you guys kind of a before and after. You can sort of watch the stuff work. I'll show you what it is. It's right here. God, it smells terrible. Jack Wax Ultimate Wheel Cleaner. This is the good stuff. You can tell how much I've already used. That's about how much I use per session. So I get about 3 or 4 wheel cleanings out of a gallon jug. Not bad, but it's God, it smells awful. It really does smell terrible, but it works really, really well. So we'll do some Viper cleanup stuff. I'd also love to clean up a bunch of the engine bay just because driving it in the rain all the way to Daytona, it really, really, really got dirty. So a lot of exterior stuff and some engine bay stuff, definitely some wheel stuff. So we'll do that this week. And hopefully we have more Miata stuff that we can put together. I'd really like that. I will definitely give you guys progress updates on the paint and what the hell happened to my hair. You guys never tell me like, hey, Kev, your hair's totally jacked. I don't ever look at that. So I'll show you guys what happens with painting the steering rack. Of course, I have to do a couple of passes, but we'll do the, I guess we'll do the clear coat first. Yeah, we'll do the clear coat first, and then we'll do the TBL. It's going to be the best way to do it. And so I'll show you guys the steering rack after it all gets cleaned up and goes back together. Hopefully the parts will be here, the tubing for that return line, and we can get it back together. So thank you guys very much for hanging out tonight. Thank you to all the subscribers, all the new subscribers. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate that. Getting those emails to saying, you know, XYZ, subscribe to your channel, and getting the other messages and the replies. The comments from all the videos. I've gotten a bunch of comments from a bunch of older videos, which is really cool too. That means you guys are going back, researching stuff, looking stuff up, seeing what my hair looked like before, all of that. So I love seeing that stuff too. That really makes my day. I appreciate that. If you guys have any questions, comments, whatever, please put them down there. Send me a text, shoot me an email, whatever. I'll reply to all of them. I don't have any problem with that. And I think, excuse me, holy crap. I don't know where that came from. I think that's about it for tonight. Don't forget to show someone that you love them today. Give them a kiss on the cheek, give them a kiss on the tip of their nose, hold their hand, give it a squeeze. It's really important for them, but it is far more important for you. All right. I will catch you guys soon. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Have a great night, everyone. Look at the Miata.